What's up YouTube, Alvaro here, welcome to the Bilingual Stock Market channel again. You guys already know this channel, this is the YouTube channel in which we talk about the markets and we do it in Spanish and English so you guys can pick your preferred language. And oh boy, what a huge week we have ahead of ourselves in terms of earnings reports. Amazon, Tesla, Google, Microsoft, Facebook and Apple will be reporting earnings next week. So in this video, I want to tell you what's been the average performance of these big tech stocks over their last 4 earnings reports, but most importantly, I want to formulate some upside and downside potential scenarios that could play out depending on the reaction of the markets in regard to these reports. So if you like to play earnings, stick around and enjoy the video. Okay guys, so let's get started and listen up, this is very important. You know that the new earnings season started a week and a half ago when the big banks, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo and Goldman Sachs report earnings. Alright, so far, listen up here guys, 92% of the companies that have already reported earnings have beaten on EPS and 85% have beaten on revenue. However, the reaction of the markets has been negative. Most of the stocks that have already reported earnings have sold off after having presented their reports. So we can tell that there is a tendency to sell off after having reported earnings that is applying for most stocks out there, meaning that we could potentially see the big tech stocks companies that will be reporting earnings next week also selling off regardless of the result that they present. So that is something very important that you need to keep in mind. And now let's go ahead and take a look at Tesla. So in the case of Tesla, EPS is expected at 78 cents and revenue is expected at $10.2 billion. In the last 4 earnings reports, Tesla has sold off 13% on average, right? After having reported earnings, despite the fact that Tesla beat on earnings in every single one of the prior 4 earnings reports except for EPS in the report that was presented back in January, in which there was a little miss on EPS, right? So Tesla went up on Friday 1.35% and it closed last Friday's trading session at $729.40. So if we use that price as a reference, right, once Tesla has reported earnings tomorrow, and if we say that Tesla drops on average or has dropped on average 13% in the last 4 earnings reports, then we could see Tesla visiting $630, all right, after having reported earnings tomorrow. But mind you guys, before Tesla happens to get down to $630, the bulls of Tesla might find support at $660. $660 is a price that has already acted as a support for the bulls of Tesla in 1 and 2 opportunities before, but it also acted as a resistance back on December 8th, right? So if we happen to see a drop, in the case of Tesla, which is the most likely thing to happen, I am actually thinking about buying put options, but that is something that I am going to be talking about furthermore later on in this video. So watch out for Tesla visiting $620, $630, or maybe finding support, which is very likely from a technical standpoint, at $660. On the flip side, if we happen to see Tesla pulling up, which is very unlikely, right, taking into account the negative performance that Tesla has had in the previous 4 earnings reports, so we can make the case that Tesla is going to find a huge resistance at $757, all right? That's the next upcoming resistance for the bulls of Tesla, and if that resistance happens to be broken into the upside, then we have another very important resistance or area of resistance at around $786, which already acted as such back on April 14th. So these are the 2 scenarios that could potentially play out for Tesla tomorrow. So let's see what happens over here. And the next stock of this video, and the next big stock of this video, is going to be Apple. And in the case of Apple, Apple reports earnings on the 29th, that's on Thursday, after hours, obviously. EPS is expected at 99 cents and revenue is expected at $77 billion. So these statistics, in the case of Apple, Apple has gained on average 10.5% in 2 of the last 4 earnings reports, and it sold off 8% on average in the 2 other earnings reports. Okay, so when it comes to the technicals, Apple went up on Friday 1.80%, and it closed last Friday's trading session at $134.32. So if we take that price as a reference for Thursday, and if we say that Apple has dropped or has sold off 8% on average in 2 of the 4 last earnings reports, so we could potentially see Apple, guys, visiting, after having reported earnings on Thursday, $124 or $123 rather would imply a 8% drop after having reported earnings. However, before getting down to $123, the bulls of Apple could potentially find support at around $126. $126 is a previous area of support and resistance for Apple, and it also coincides with the 180 SMA on the 4-hour chart. So let's count over here. As a resistance, this price has acted in 1, 2, and 3 opportunities before, and it has acted as a support twice. All right, so watch out for Apple if it happens to drop on Thursday after having reported earnings, finding support at around $126. All right. And on the flip side, if Apple happens to gain 10.5%, as it has done in 2 out of the last 4 earnings reports that this company has presented, then we could pretty much see Apple bursting above all-time high, guys. You know, a run-up up to $145, which is Apple's all-time high, would imply a 7.33% pull up, right? So if Apple pulls up 10%, we could potentially see Apple getting up to $150. But as I have been saying, guys, I don't see any of these stocks, you know, pulling up that much, because the markets are being very bearish when it comes to reacting in regard to earnings reports, you know, during this earnings season. So I don't see Apple pulling up that much, but it could happen. So watch out for Apple on Thursday, either reaching a new all-time high or bursting above its all-time high at $145, or maybe dropping down to $123 or finding support at $126. And the next stock of this video is going to be Microsoft, ticker symbol MSFT. And in the case of Microsoft, this company is reporting earnings on Tuesday, April 27th, after hours, of course. So EPS is expected at $1.76, and revenue is expected at $41 billion. Okay, these statistics. Microsoft sold off 6.6% on average in 3 of the last 4 earnings reports, and it gained 4.28% after having reported earnings in January for Q4 of 2020. So let's go ahead and take a look at the charts and at the 4-hour. And first of all, guys, we can see a beautiful uptrend, all right? Microsoft is currently uptrending and trading above the moving averages, and on top of that, it is making a higher high on the 4-hour chart. So from a technical standpoint, there's nothing, but absolutely nothing to complain about Microsoft from a technical standpoint. So if we say that this stock has sold off 6.6% in 3 out of the 4 last earnings reports, we could see, and taken as a reference, obviously, $261, which was the closing price for Microsoft last Friday, because Microsoft went up last Friday 1.50 1.55%. So taking this price as a reference for Tuesday, once Microsoft has reported earnings, and if it happens to drop 6.6%, take a look at this, guys. $244 is actually 6.23%, or would imply a 6.23% drop for Microsoft. If that happens, Microsoft is going, if we happen to see such a drop, on Tuesday, Microsoft is going to be finding support at the 180 SMA on the 4-hour chart, and also at an area that already acted as a resistance back in mid-February, right? So watch out for Microsoft visiting $244 after having reported earnings on Tuesday. And on the flip side, if we happen to see a 4% gain, which was what happened back in January once Microsoft reported earnings for Q4 of last year, so if we happen to see Microsoft pulling up 4%, it is going to get up to $270 pretty much, all right? Because Microsoft is trading as of now almost at all-time high, because all-time high for Microsoft is at $261.98. So if it happens to gain 4%, it is going to burst above all-time high, and it could climb up to $270. So let's move on. The next stock, Amazon. Amazon reports earnings on the 29th. That is going to be next Thursday. EPS is expected at $9.96 and revenue at $104 billion. Oh my goodness, these numbers that Amazon reports are simply mind-blowing, guys. $104 billion in only one quarter. Unbelievable, guys. What an unbelievable company Amazon is. Okay, the statistics. Amazon has sold off 9% on average in 2 out of their last 4 earnings reports, and it gained 7% in the other 2 earnings reports. So depending on how solid are the earnings that Amazon will report on the 29th, we could see either a 9% sell-off or a 7% gain. So Amazon went up on Friday almost 1%, 0.96%, and it closed Friday's trading session at $3,340. So taking as a reference again, the closing price of Friday at $3,340, if Amazon happens to have a 9% drop after having reported earnings, we could see the lowest 3,000s. Wow, I don't see that happening, guys. That would be a huge drop in the case of Amazon. So if it happens to sell off, I would be looking at $3,132. This is a price that already acted as a support for Amazon plenty of times. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 opportunities before, and it is also near the 180 SMA on the 4-hour chart. So I think, I might be mistaken, obviously, but I'm thinking that worst case scenario, if we see a drop after Amazon reports earnings, we could see $3,128 or so. On the flip side, if we happen to see a run-up after having reported earnings, so we are looking at a 7% gain, in which case that is going to take Amazon pretty much up to all-time high at $3,552, right? So watch out for Amazon, guys. Either bursting above all-time high in case that they present way better than expected earnings, or maybe visiting $3,130 if we happen to see a drop after earnings, all right? And the next stock of this video is going to be good old Google, Alphabet. And in the case of Google, it reports earning on the 27th, that's on Tuesday. EPS is expected at $15.50, and revenue is also expected at $51.3 billion. Oh my goodness, $51 billion in one quarter. What an unbelievable company, guys. All right. The statistics. Google performed negatively 3 out of the 4 last earnings reports, dropping 6% on average, all right, after having reported earnings, and gaining 16% after having reported earnings in last January. So when it comes to the 4-hour chart, Google pulled up on Friday. It went up on Friday 2.10%, and it closed last Friday's trading session at $2,299. So I am going to zoom in here on the 4-hour chart, and if we take as a reference last Friday's closing price at around $2,300, okay, approximately, and if we say that Google has dropped 6% on average in 3 out of the last 4 earnings reports, we are looking at $2,170 approximately, right? And if that price doesn't supply a good support for the bulls of Google, then we have a very important level of support at $2,120. $2,120 coincides with the 180 SMA on the 4-hour chart, but it also acted as a resistance back in the mid of February, right? So watch out for a drop in the case of Google down to 2,000, yeah, that is going to be $2,160, or worst case scenario, in my opinion, we could see $2,120. On the flip side, if Google happens to crash on earnings and it pulls up 16%, as it did in last January, then I don't know, guys, I am getting off the page. I mean, how high can Google go? 2,400, $2,450 or 2,500, because a 4% run up is going to take Google up to almost 2,400. So wow, I don't see Google making such a huge run up after having reported earnings. But if you are bullish on Google, then I don't know, guys, maybe call options. I wouldn't buy puts in the case of Google, right? But and as I have been saying throughout this video, we're seeing a clear tendency to the downside in most of the stocks that have already reported earnings during this earnings season. So I don't know, guys, this is a tough one. So I don't play earnings, so I'm staying away from this kind of place. But I don't know. It is your call. And the last stock of this video is going to be Facebook, ticker symbol FB. And in the case of Facebook, it reports earnings on the 28th. Alright, on Wednesday, EPS is expected at $2.36 and revenue is expected at $23.5 billion. So these statistics. Facebook has beaten on earnings in 3 out of the last earnings reports, gaining 10% on average in the last 3 earnings reports of last year, and selling off 10% in the earnings report of last January. So we can pretty much expect, in the case of Facebook, either a 10% drop or a 10% pop. And on the 4-hour chart, how can we play earnings on Facebook? So Facebook went up on Friday 1.55%, and it closed Friday's trading session at $301.13. So, and again, taking as a reference last Friday's closing price, if Facebook happens to drop 10% after having reported earnings, we're looking at pretty much $270, all right? But I'm thinking, guys, we have a very important area of support for the bulls of Facebook at around $277. $277 already acted as a resistance for the bulls of Facebook in 1, 2, and 3 opportunities before. So from a technical standpoint, this is a very important area of this is a previous resistance that now is supposed to act as a new support, okay? So, yeah, in case of a drop, I am going to be looking at $277. On the flip side, if Facebook happens to crash on earnings and it pulls up 10%, so it is going to pretty much burst above all-time high at $316, and we are looking at I don't know, guys, $320, $325. But as I said before, guys, I am being very, but very bearish in the case of the earnings reports. Not in the case of the earnings reports that these big tech companies are going to report. I am being very bearish in regard to the reaction that the markets are going to have. So I don't see any of these big tech companies bursting above all-time high and pulling Apple out after having reported earnings. In fact, because I am a long-term investor in Tesla, if I happen to make any pre-earnings move, it is going to be Tesla puts, guys. I would like to buy Tesla puts in order to hedge my long-term position, because it's been painful during the last 4 earnings reports of Tesla. All right, the stock has dropped a lot. That has affected the overall value of my portfolio. So I'm thinking about buying Tesla puts. And if Tesla pulls up a lot, who cares? I mean, I couldn't care less. That's fine. So I am going to lose the money of the put options, but I will see my portfolios gain a lot when it comes to their value, right? To their overall value. So I am being very bearish, all right? As I said before, when it comes to the potential reaction that the markets are going to have next week, when it comes to these big tech stocks, and I ask you guys, what do you think about these big tech companies reporting earnings next week? Is any of you taking a chance on these upcoming big tech earnings reports? Is any of you buying call options or put options? Please drop a comment down below and let me know. And with Facebook, I am going to wrap up the video. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for hanging out with me once again. Remember, guys, that here on the Bilingual Stock Market channel, we are posting stock market update videos Mondays through Thursdays right after the market closes. In those videos, I break down from a technical standpoint both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100, but I also break down the 3 stocks that will be on the top of my watch list for the next trading session. So if you want to get the notifications of our videos in a timely manner, you'd better be subscribed to the channel, and you also need to activate the notification bell right up there. Follow us on Instagram, guys, at Bilingual Stock Market. On our Instagram account, we are posting news and information on a daily basis, and I am also calling out stocks that I am about to buy throughout the trading session. And remember that this is the Bilingual Stock Market channel, the YouTube channel in which we talk about the markets, and we do it in English and Spanish, but most importantly, the YouTube channel in which we know that the wonderful world of Wall Street is not for geniuses, it is for entrepreneurs just like you guys and myself. My name is Alvaro, and I will see you guys tomorrow right after the market closes. Peace out, keep on crushing the markets.